Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's jump right in. We're tackling something I think, well, pretty much everyone can relate to. That feeling of just being frantic,
Right.
overwhelmed by everything, the pace of modern life, and just finding it really hard to get any sense of peace.
It really is a common feeling, and the sources you brought us, they really hit on that. We've been looking through Mark Williams's Finding Peace in a Frantic World and some related notes and articles you shared.
Right.
And our mission today really is to unpack all of this, to dig into these materials, figure out the key insights on why peace seems so elusive, and, crucially, how these sources suggest we might actually find it again.
And the way the sources describe it. Wow, it's so spot on. That 3 a.m. experience, lying there, mind just absolutely racing,
Yeah.
thoughts you just can't switch off, or feeling totally wiped out during the day but somehow still wired, unable to focus.
That sense of life just slipping away.
Exactly, like it's just rushing past and you can't grab onto it.
And a core point the sources make is that this isn't like some personal failing. It's not that you're doing something wrong.
Okay.
They suggest this franticness often comes directly from, well, our modern way of life. And importantly, the way our minds have gotten into habits of reacting to it all.
Habits of reacting.
Yeah, and it's a bit weird, but sometimes our very attempts to fix how we feel, to find that peace, can actually backfire, make things worse.
Huh. Trying harder makes it harder. That's interesting.
It can, yeah. And the sources also point out something pretty cool. While we now have all this science explain why our brains do this, the actual wisdom for finding peace, it seems to come back to these really old, almost timeless ideas.
Ancient truths.
They call them eternal truths, yeah. Which is quite a powerful thought.
Okay, so let's start there. Understanding the problem, what are the sources saying is actually going on inside our heads?
Right. So a central concept they introduce is what they call the mind's doing mode.
Doing mode. Okay, what's that about?
Well, think of it as your brain's default problem solver. Its main job is to scan for gaps.
Gaps?
Yeah, the difference between where you are right now and where you think you should be or want to be. And then it immediately starts figuring out how to close that gap.
Okay, like planning a route to the shops.
Exactly. I'm here, I need milk, the shop's over there. How do I get there? It's brilliant for tasks like that. Really effective.
But the sources say this becomes a problem when we turn that tool inwards
Yeah.
on our own feelings.
Precisely. And this is like a really key insight from the material. Our moods, our feelings, they naturally fluctuate, right? They come and go.
Sure.
The trouble starts when we feel something we don't like, say a bit of sadness, and that doing mode kicks in like it's a problem to be solved. Okay, sadness detected. This is wrong. How do I eliminate sadness and achieve happiness, like right now?
Trying to fix a feeling like it's a broken appliance.
You got it. And the analogy the sources use is really vivid. It's like being caught in quicksand. Your gut instinct is to struggle, right? Thrash around to get out. But what happens in quicksand if you do that?
You sink faster, deeper.
Exactly. And trying to wrestle with a bad mood, analyze it to death, push it away, that struggle, that mental thrashing, it just digs you in deeper. It actually amplifies the feeling and keeps you stuck.
Wow. I remember the sources linking this to our basic survival instincts, that fight or flight thing.
Yes, absolutely. They talk about the amygdala, that really ancient part of the brain geared for spotting threats. Its job is survival.
Right.
But the crucial point they highlight is it's not very sophisticated. It doesn't really know the difference between a genuine external threat, like, the classic tiger,
Okay.
and something purely internal, like a worrying thought about the future or a painful memory popping up.
So a stressful thought can trigger the same alarm bells as a tiger.
Pretty much, yeah. It can set off that same stress hormone cascade, put your whole system on high alert, even when there's nothing physically there to fight or run from.
Which must be exhausting if it keeps happening.
Totally. It leads to the state of chronic, low-level, or sometimes high-level alert.
There were some great examples in the sources. That went about all over Berkman.
Oh, yeah, the sandwich. He'd notice himself feeling this, deep existential angst. And then he'd pause and realize, hang on, maybe I'm just hungry. His doing mode was jumping to solve this massive problem when the trigger was just simple physical discomfort.
That's brilliant. And Kate, after the car accident, that really stuck with me too.
Yeah, that's such a clear illustration. It was minor, nobody hurt, insurance sorted it, objectively, over.
Right.
But her mind just wouldn't let it go. Kept replaying it, analyzing, blaming herself, imagining all these terrible what-ifs that never actually happened.
So the distress wasn't really from the event itself anymore.
Not directly, no. It was from this relentless mental loop the doing mode had created.
Yeah.
Feeling this sense of, like, irreversible damage purely from the thoughts about the event.
Yeah. It really shows how the mind can just grab onto something and spiral. And the sources mention that negative feelings tend to cluster. They call them constellations.
That's a really useful way to think about it. One negative feeling pops up, and it sort of activates this whole network-related thoughts, other feelings, physical sensations, old memories. A whole constellation lights up.
Huh?
And if that happens often enough, it wears these pathways, these grooves into the mind. So that becomes the automatic default reaction, like Lucy, the buyer they talked about.
Yeah.
A feeling of being stuck or maybe fearing failure would instantly trigger this whole constellation old memories of inadequacy, that harsh inner critic voice, creating this self-reinforcing negative loop.
Okay, so let's just pull that together. The sources are saying this default doing mode, great for tasks, but when we apply it to our inner world feelings, thoughts, it leads to overthinking, brooding, trying to run away from unpleasant stuff.
Right, mistaking thoughts for solid facts.
And getting lost in the past or future, that whole mental time travel thing, instead of just being here.
Exactly. And that whole cycle just drains us and keeps us feeling frantic and stuck. But crucially, the sources don't just leave us there. They offer an alternative.
Which is the being mode. How's that different?
It's presented as a completely different stance, really. Instead of fixing or changing or analyzing, it's about cultivating this open-hearted awareness.
Open-hearted awareness.
Yeah, like stepping back slightly, finding a vantage point where you can just notice thoughts and feelings as they come and go, without immediately getting tangled up in them, without judging them or needing to react right away.
So not trying to change how you feel, just noticing that you feel it.
That's the core of it. It's about sensing, accepting what's actually here in this present moment.
Yeah.
And the sources stress this isn't about giving up or being passive.
Okay.
They call mindful acceptance a radical act because it cuts right across our usual habit of fighting anything uncomfortable.
Right, the quicksand thing.
Exactly. By choosing to just acknowledge what's here without the struggle, you actually interrupt those automatic push-it-away pathways. It creates a bit of space. And in that space, you find you have a choice about how to respond instead of just reacting automatically.
The sources use that Rumi poem, The Guest House, which felt like a perfect way to describe it.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Treating every feeling, every thought, even the dark or difficult ones like unexpected guests.
Welcoming them in.
Welcoming them, acknowledging them, not necessarily liking them, but seeing them as temporary visitors who might even have something important to teach us if we can just sit with them for a bit without freaking out.
And there's actual science that backs this up. I remember Davidson and Kabat-Zinn's research being mentioned.
Yes, this is where the modern science really connects beautifully with these older ideas. They looked at brain activity patterns, kind of like an emotional set point or thermostat, and they found that mindfulness training could genuinely shift this default setting. It nudged brain activity towards the approach system associated with more positive feelings, engagement, more energy.
Even when people were facing difficult stuff.
That was the fascinating part. It wasn't about blocking out the negative. It was about changing the relationship to it. Instead of that instant recoil, that aversion.
Yeah.
People became more able to just be with the difficult feelings or triggers, to approach them with awareness, which actually lessened their overall negative impact and how long they stuck around.
And didn't they mention other brain benefits?
Yeah.
Immune system, empathy.
They did, yeah. Positive links to immune function and also activity in the insula, an area involved in self-awareness and feeling empathy for others.
So it's not just about feeling better, it seems to build resilience too. The sources talked about hardiness.
Right. They connect it to research by Kobasa and Antonovsky on psychological hardiness. People who score high on hardiness tend to cope better with stress.
How so?
Well, they generally feel they have more control over their lives, they feel committed to what they're doing, and they tend to see challenges more as, well, challenges, opportunities even, rather than just overwhelming threats.
And mindfulness helps build those things.
That's what the sources suggest. That the practice itself cultivates those very qualities. It boosts that sense of agency, helps you connect with what feels meaningful, and helps you frame difficulties as things you can navigate rather than things that just happen to you.
So it's about building this core strength, mentally and emotionally.
Exactly. Moving from feeling like you're just tossed around by moods or events, to having a stronger sense of, okay, I can handle this.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly positive. But how do we actually do it? The sources are clear. It's not about, like, instantly achieving Zen right.
Definitely not. They really emphasize it's simply about noticing. Noticing what's actually happening right now in this moment. And that it's a skill, like learning an instrument or lifting weights.
Resistance training for the mind.
That's the analogy they use. You're building the muscle of attention, of awareness. And it helps you see just how much time you spend on autopilot.
Autopilot.
Yeah, just going through the motions, totally lost in thought, not really present. You know, like you sit down at your computer to reply to one email.
And suddenly it's 20 minutes later and you're scrolling news feeds.
Exactly. Mindfulness is about noticing that drift, that moment you went off task, and gently bringing your attention back to what you actually intended to do. It's about waking up from the autopilot.
So what are the practical ways the sources suggest we start building this muscle?
Well, they often start with something really simple, like mindful eating, usually with a raisin or maybe a small piece of chocolate.
A raisin, how does that help?
It's not about the raisin itself, really. It's about the process. Slowing way down and paying full attention, using all your senses. What does it look like? Smell like? Feel like? What are the tiny bursts of taste?
So it's about really experiencing it instead of just gulping it down.
Precisely. And the insight it often brings, like for Alex in the source material, is just how much we normally miss. How much of life, the good bits and the tricky bits, we just rush through without really tasting or feeling any of it. It's a wake-up call to the richness that's available just by paying attention.
Okay. Then there's the body scan. That sounds a bit more involved.
It is a core practice. You basically guide your attention slowly through your entire body, part by part. Feet, legs, torso, arms, head.
And the point isn't necessarily to relax.
Not primarily, no. It's just to notice whatever sensations are actually there. Tingling, warmth, tightness, maybe numbness, maybe nothing much at all. Just observing.
How does that connect back to escaping the doing mode?
Well, it grounds you firmly in your physical reality, which the doing mind often just bypasses completely when it's off thinking. You start noticing patterns, like where you habitually hold tension. And crucially, the sources say, if you do notice discomfort, that isn't a sign you're failing. It's actually information. It's a teacher. Hannah's experience, where her mind kept wandering like crazy during the scan.
Yeah.
That wasn't her doing it wrong. That was the practice noticing the mind's habit of wandering. That's the insight.
Gotcha. Mindful movement is also mentioned, like gentle yoga.
Yes. Moving the body, but with that same quality of awareness. Paying attention to the actual physical sensations as you stretch or hold a posture. Finding that soft edge, the point of feeling the stretch, but before it becomes painful.
Exploring limits gently.
Exactly. And the sources suggest this can make you more sensitive to how emotions feel in the body. You might notice that knot of anxiety starting in your stomach earlier before it spirals into a full-blown worry fest in your head gives you a chance to respond differently sooner.
And the sounds and thoughts meditation. That seems aimed right at the busy mind.
It really is. The core idea here is learning to relate to your thoughts differently, not as concrete facts or urgent commands you have to obey.
But more like.
More like sounds. Sounds happen in the space around you, right? Some loud, some quiet. You notice them, but you don't have to get involved with every single one. Thoughts, the sources suggest, are like that too. They're just events happening in the mind.
The mind is to thought what the ear is to sound. I remember that line.
Exactly. You notice them arise, you notice them pass. You don't have to believe them all or get swept away by them.
And they connect this to the ABC model. Activating event, belief, consequence.
Yeah, A is the thing that happens. C is how you feel or react. But B, your belief, your interpretation, the story you tell yourself about A, that's the crucial bit that shapes C.
Right. We think A causes C, but B is in the middle.
Precisely. And this meditation helps you see that B, your thought, your interpretation, isn't necessarily the absolute truth. It's just a mental event. It helps you step back from what the sources call the mind's rumor mill.
The rumor mill, I like that.
Yeah. And you start to recognize those common stressful thoughts, I have to be perfect, this is all my fault, I'll never cope, as maybe just symptoms of stress or old habits, rather than accurate descriptions of reality.
Okay, but what about when you're right in the middle of feeling overwhelmed? Is there something quick?
Yeah.
The 3-minute breathing space.
Yes. This is designed to be super accessible. A short, practical tool you can use almost anywhere, anytime.
3 steps.
3 steps. First, acknowledge. Just briefly check in what thoughts, feelings, body sensations are here right now. Second, gather. Gently bring your focus onto the breath, the physical sensations of breathing. Third, expand. Widen your awareness out again to include the whole body, maybe the space around you.
So in 3 minutes, you're not trying to fix everything.
Not at all. It's more like creating a tiny island of calm, a little space around the difficulty, like stepping under an awning during a sudden downpour.
Doesn't stop the rain, but gives you a pause.
Exactly. Gives you perspective, reminds you that you have options beyond just getting soaked. Sue Ellen, in the source, using it before that stressful meeting is a perfect example. It helped her step out of the anxiety spiral.
And for the really persistent, difficult stuff, the deeper thoughts or situations,
That's where the exploring difficulty meditation comes in, usually introduced a bit later, around week 5. This is quite different. You intentionally bring a challenging thought or situation to mind.
okay, sounds tough.
It can be. But then the key move is to shift your attention away from analyzing the story or the content of the thought.
And focus where?
And focus directly on the physical sensations that thought triggers in your body. Where do you feel that anxiety? What does that sadness actually feel like physically? A tightness, hollowness, heat.
So feeling the dread in your stomach, not thinking about the dread.
Exactly. And the practice involves bringing a sense of, well, gentle curiosity or even warmth to those sensations, using phrases like breathing into it or imagining softening around the tension.
Without trying to make it go away.
Without trying to solve it or push it away, just being present with the physical experience. And the insight from people like Harry and Sonia in the sources is that often when you do this, the mental urgency, that feeling of being trapped by the thought, starts to diffuse. The emotion gets felt, processed physically, and can then move through instead of just circling endlessly in your head.
That does sound powerful.
Yeah.
And then there's cultivating kindness.
Yes, the befriending or loving kindness meditation, often in week 6, this is about intentionally generating feelings of warmth, care, and compassion.
Towards.
Well, you start with yourself, actually, which, as the sources point out, can be surprisingly difficult for a lot of us.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Then you gradually extend that feeling outwards to loved ones, neutral people, even difficult people, and eventually to all beings. Often using simple phrases like, may I be well, may I be happy, may I have ease of being.
It makes sense that being kinder to ourselves would help, especially with that inner critic the doing mode fuels.
Absolutely. It's a direct antidote to that self-judgment, that feeling of, I'm failing at being peaceful.
Now, beyond those specific meditations, the sources also mentioned habit releasers. What are they about?
These are more informal ways to weave mindfulness into everyday life and deliberately break out of those autopilot ruts.
Like what?
Simple things. Taking a walk, but really paying attention to the sights, sounds, smells. Deciding to watch a TV show you enjoy, but giving it your full attention instead of scrolling your phone at the same time.
Single tasking.
Basically. Or doing something nurturing, like planting some seeds or taking care of a houseplant. The sources mentioned the Ellen Langer study.
With the elderly people in the plant.
Yes. The group who were given plants to actively care for showed significant boosts in alertness, activity, well-being, even longevity compared to a group who just had plants put in their rooms.
Wow. Just from caring for a plant.
It highlights how these simple acts of mindful engagement and care can really shift our whole experience of life. Injecting curiosity and presence breaks those automatic negative loops.
That really drives home the impact of small changes. And speaking of negative loops, the sources use that image of the exhaustion funnel. That was striking.
Yeah, Professor Osberg's idea. It describes how when we get stressed, we tend to cut out the things that actually nourish us first.
The enjoyable stuff. Hobbies, seeing friends.
Exactly. We see them as optional luxuries. We prioritize only what feels important or urgent, even if those things totally drain us. So we just keep taking withdrawals from our energy bank, never making deposits.
Leading straight down the funnel.
Set to burnout and exhaustion, yeah.
And they suggest listing activities. Is nourishing or depleting?
Yes, N or D. It can be a real eye-opener to actually see that imbalance written down. How much D is there compared to N?
So the goal is to add more N's.
Partly, yes. But the sources also emphasize it's not just about changing activities, it's also about changing your relationship to the D activities you maybe can't avoid. Finding little moments, little cracks for awareness, even within those draining tasks. Like Beth in the sources, just taking a conscious breath before tackling a difficult email. Bring a little bit of that being mode into the doing.
So even depleting tasks can be done more mindfully?
Potentially, yes. It lessens their draining power somewhat. And for those times when you're feeling really low, really stuck, the sources offer 3 kinds of mindful actions you can choose from.
Right. Practical steps, what are they?
1, do something simply for pleasure, something enjoyable, even small. This helps counteract that flat feeling and hedonia by activating reward circuits. 2, do something that gives a sense of mastery or accomplishment, ticking something off a list, fixing something small. This combats feelings of helplessness.
Okay, pleasure or mastery, what's the third?
3, if you can't change what you're doing, just change how you're doing it. Act mindfully. Bring awareness back to your senses right here, right now. Ground yourself in the present moment, whatever it holds.
So lots of tools, lots of practices. But the key seems to be actually using them, sustaining it.
Absolutely. The sources really stress that mindfulness isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a practice of remembering, constantly, gently, bringing yourself back to awareness, moment by moment by moment.
And that takes commitment. You don't just find time for it.
No, you have to make the time. They share that wonderful W.H. Murray quote, inspired by Goethe, about commitment.
The one about boldness.
Yeah. Concerning all acts of initiative, the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. The act of committing, even in small ways, starts to create its own momentum and support.
That's powerful. But what about when it feels really hard? When your mind just wanders constantly or you get frustrated?
The sources are so clear on this. That's not failure, that's the path. That is the practice.
Noticing the wandering is the point.
Noticing the wandering, noticing the frustration, noticing you fell asleep. That is the moment of mindfulness. It's like the resistance training idea. Again, the struggle isn't a sign you're weak. It's the sign you're actually engaging the muscle. Recognizing the difficulty is the success.
That reframing is really helpful. It sounds like this practice also changes how we relate to the past.
It really does. This is a subtle but profound point in the sources. Difficult past experiences can kind of solidify into these overgeneralized negative beliefs about ourselves. I'm useless. I always mess up. Life is ruined.
Like a permanent summary statement.
Exactly. And those feel really solid and keep us trapped in guilt or hopelessness. Mindfulness, by helping us stay present and process emotions differently, allows memory to become more specific, more like a story with a beginning, middle, and end.
So it puts the past back in the past.
It helps place it there, yes, rather than letting it define the present. Like with Kate and the accident over time, mindfulness could help shift it from being the source of constant pervasive guilt to being a specific difficult event that happened back then.
So the overall goal isn't to reach some state of perfect, unshakable calm.
Not at all, according to these sources. It's actually much simpler and maybe more profound. It's about waking up. Waking up to the reality that now is the only time we ever actually have.
Breaking that habit of always waiting for happiness. I'll be happy when.
Exactly. Postponing life until conditions are perfect. The goal is realizing you can be present, fully present with whatever is here right now. The good, the bad, the messy, the uncertain, all of it.
Like cultivating a garden. Or weaving that parachute they mentioned. Ongoing work that prepares you.
Yeah, it prepares you for the inevitable storms, but also allows you to really savor the sunshine when it's here. And sustaining it just comes back to those conscious choices again and again.
Making time. Using the breathing space.
Seeing difficulties as chances to practice, not reasons to quit. And really importantly, reminding yourself why you're doing it. What matters to you. Peace, energy, clarity. Connecting the practice to those deeper values makes it feel less like a chore and more like coming home to yourself.
Wow. Okay. So, wrapping this deep dive up. What the sources are really showing us is that peace isn't about eliminating the hard stuff. It's not about reaching some perfect state.
No, it's about fundamentally changing our relationship with our inner world, shifting how we meet our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences.
Moving from that constant pushing and fixing of the doing mode.
Towards the openness and acceptance of the being mode, seeing thoughts as just thoughts, not facts. Turning towards difficulty with curiosity, not just aversion.
Reclaiming choice from the autopilot and finding ways to genuinely nourish ourselves, not just deplete ourselves.
Exactly. So maybe the final thought to leave you with, listening right now, based on all this, where's one small moment in your day, today or tomorrow, just one tiny opportunity where you could consciously invite in a little bit of this mindful awareness. Just notice what happens, because maybe, just maybe, the peace we're all looking for isn't something we have to desperately find out there or create under perfect conditions.
But something that's already here.
Perhaps. Something we can just allow ourselves to notice, allow ourselves to be with right here, right now, just as things are.